Did being in law enforcement affect your family?
Yes.
How so?
So when I got married, I was a cop when I got married. So he knew sort of what he was getting into. And he actually had an interest in law enforcement. He used to come ride with me all the time on patrol. He loved that until we had the really down times. He loved, when we got to run code, but the 2 hours, in the middle of the night when nothing's going on and it sucks, that wasn't so fun. But he knew what he was getting into, that I was already in this career. But I remember one time I was working a night shift, and I was going to swing over by like one of our dispatchers' house after I got off work or something. And I didn't let him know I wasn't coming home on time because it was a Saturday morning. He's going to be sleeping in, right? I got home and he was waiting at the door. And he's like, "Where the hell have you been? Do you know how long I've been waiting? I called dispatch. They didn't know where you went. They said you didn't check 1042. He would, and they didn't, they would have sent somebody like if they had a thought, but he didn't. He was so worried. And I didn't realize how much like some of my stuff was impacting him. I remember when, oh my gosh, I just totally went blank on her name. She was the state police officer, last name Huff, that was killed here in Idaho. I remember when she was killed, that had a huge impact on my husband. That we went to the funeral and it really impacted him. But he was so supportive of the work I was doing. I remember I had an incident where a guy pulled a knife on me one night, and it was right after we got engaged. And it made me kind of go, I don't think I want to stay in this job. Somebody wanted to kill me tonight, and I got these great things going on. And I told my fiance at the time, I told him I was going to quit. And he looked at me and he said, "What are you going to do that you love as much as being a cop?" And I thought, wow, that is a lot. But it had changed. I mean, even like when I think about my kids, my kids weren't allowed to play in the front yard for years. They weren't allowed, like I had all these, I did let them do sleepovers, but I had like all these things that had to happen. Like we had to get together as families. We had to, we had to spend some time together. You can all come to my house, but my kids are only going to go to limited places. It changed the way my husband used to say, "Angela, not everybody's a child molester." And I'm like, "You don't know that." So it changes the way you look at people. But I don't think I ended up leaving this career jaded like a lot of people do. Because I also saw so many tremendous people wanting to do really great things in my career. Even though I've seen the worst of the worst that humans can do to each other. When you work persons crimes, I will tell you that is the worst of the worst human beings can do to each other. I mean, I have worked things that nobody ever wants to hear about. That also affected my relationship with my family. I remember having this really horrific child abuse case that I couldn't get the work done at work. So I was taking the report home to type it at home, but I was getting kind of that adrenaline rush listening to confession again. So I'm on this high and I'm telling my husband about it. And he looked at me and he said, "Don't you ever tell me something like that again. That's your world. I can't hear that kind of stuff." And I would have that even from officers I worked with. They're like, "This is why I don't work in your division. Don't tell me that kind of stuff." So it has this big impact on all of it, right? My husband, they saw me going through, just some different emotional stuff from my cases, when I was shut down a little bit. But I think it also, my daughter's actually a pediatric nurse now, wants to eventually, I think, come and do work over here.
Wow.
My son actually works on site. Here's our building site coordinator. They volunteer with our Camp Hope program. So I think it's had negative and positive effects.
Yeah.
One of the things I think they've got from me, my kids have got from me, is that you don't do a job for the money. You never do a job for the money. You do something because you're created for it and you have a passion for it. And if you can do that in your job, it won't be a job for you. Yeah. It'll just be part of who you are for the rest of your life.